Hi guys, welcome to episode what is this, 6 I think it is. I can't remember numbers and stuff, that's too much effort. Of the Dragon's Den podcast. I'm this person, this little name thingy. Look at it. And yeah, we got 3 returning guests this time because I couldn't get anyone better. So it was like, just deal with it and get these people. So let's cross over and have a look at the assorted nonsense that we have today. There is the assorted nonsense we have today. The look on your face right now, Luke. Oh my lord.
Well, because I kept just hearing right now that we're going just the back, I guess.
I'll be back. I'll be back. At the back.
The back.
We're back. All right. So we have. Well, we might as well start with Luke because he's just the one that's who's currently looking like a ghost. Spooky.
I had to have a light on, otherwise the camera is just gonna fail.
You know what it reminds me of? You know how they have like tales around the campfire, like that, spooky talking to a
the campfire
torch.
song.
Yeah.
The CAMPFIRESONG song.
So Luke's here. Then we have Lord. And then of course we have the ultra talented graphics artist extraordinaire and an amazing friend, the Riley Bean, who has an amazing new PNG tuber avatar thingy, and it's very, very, very adorable.
Wow.
And just your thing goes da-da. It does look like you're either gonna draw something or stab someone, but
Or both.
in my case it's probably stab, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And then of course we have in the snow lost wilderness that is Norway. I don't think it's Norway in the background of this particular situation, but that's okay. We have Petal.
Let.
Thank you for your input. Beautiful. And so yeah, I brought this crew back because the last time this crew was on the podcast, it was a lot of fun and we had a lot of silly conversations. And
He's gonna get anyone better.
And budget cuts. I was like, well, I have to get.
Wow.
No.
Like, hold on. You guys are getting paid?
I mean, I am.
I was gonna say Riley. Riley does get it,
That's true. I get paid in a wub.
Oh lord. So yeah. First thing I was gonna just to do the usual icebreaker kind of situation, that kind of thing. So I was thinking about recently, what moments in like that you've had in a game that have been like gaming defining moments, like something that you've done where you've gone, this is one of the best things I've ever done playing a video game. I can think of two. Like I thought I'll do mine to get you the idea of where I'm at. Okay, so there's two. One is actually a very old school thing, and that was the very first time I completed a Pokédex, and it was in Pokemon Crystal. And that was back in the day when it was like plug a cable in and then plug a cable into someone else's Game Boy, and then it was like that whole process. It was an achievement back then to get the Pokédex done. That's like 25 years ago because I'm old. And then the other one I was thinking of, which is more recent but still an old school game, was actually finishing the Legend of Zelda 2 on the NES side of things, because it is the hardest Zelda game ever made as far as I'm concerned, and I actually managed to achieve that on stream, and it's still one of the greatest moments I've ever done in gaming. So yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I like that there's like an older one as well that you'll remember, because I've got two in my head. That one is like years and years ago, back in my childhood. That first one being the first time I completed a Pokemon game, that was Pokemon Blue on the GBA. Game Boy Color, sorry. Pokemon Blue, the first game I played, but I never actually owned a Pokemon game until Generation 4, because the games that I played up until that point belonged to one of my older brothers. He had Red and Blue, then he had Gold, Silver, Crystal. I think he had all three or two of them, but Crystal was one of them. And then I remember playing his copy of Ruby, and he pre-ordered Emerald and got it like 2 weeks early.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was incredible.
That's cool. That doesn't happen these days. That's you're lucky if you get it on launch day these days.
It was incredible. But yeah, Pokemon Pearl was the first Pokemon game I actually ever owned. But one of my favorite moments is beating Pokemon Blue for the first time.
Blue's a different. Those first three games, not so much Yellow, but Blue. Let's go with Blue and Red then. Like those games are a different beast. They're just they're being the first games, they hadn't refined how the games play out, and those games are very broken in a lot of ways.
The other thing that stays in my mind is I can't remember exactly what shiny it was, and I hate shiny hunting, so I can't believe this in my head. But I know the first time I ever got a shiny was in Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'd never gotten a shiny, any random anything like that before those games. I also remember, it's not mine, but my younger brother finding a shiny Weedle in White Forest in Pokemon White, and he either killed it or it ran away. But he was very, very sad and didn't play the game again for like a month.
Oh god.
But yeah, I've never actually had a shiny until generation 7.
Sword and Shield. It'd say Sword and Shield's 8.
Oh fucking hell! Yeah, 8 generations for me to get my first shiny.
I was gonna say I got my first shiny in 7, Gen 7.
Gen 6.
Oh, wait, no, I tell a lie then, because I got a few shinies from. Well, okay, I got a few shinies from Ultra Wormhole, but I never counted them because of the boosted odds in Ultra Wormhole. It just kind of felt hollow. In my opinion, I'm not saying they don't count, but
okay. Well, if we're gonna go down that path, my first shiny was in Pokemon Crystal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The red Gyarados.
For some people that counts, and that's fine. Like, there's no right or wrong way of counting it. But for me personally, I didn't get much joy out of because I knew how boosted the odds were. So I didn't really count the Gen 7 Ultra Wormhole shinies as shiny. Well, they were shinies, but not my first actual shiny. My first shiny in Sword and Shield. My first shiny in Sword and Shield was a Masuda Hunt.
Really? Oh wow! Okay, that's impressive.
That's when I started shiny hunting on stream.
Masuda sucks.
My first shiny that I classed my first shiny was streamed.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah.
All right. Well, Riley.
Okay. So
Is it gonna? I'm guessing Kingdom Hearts.
No, it's not.
Oh.
No. It's okay. So it's Digimon World 1 on the PlayStation 1.
Okay.
Which I still to this day have not completed. So it's not that. It's nothing like that.
I know why he hasn't completed it.
It's too difficult. Very difficult game. It's one of those, like, it doesn't matter how well prepped you are, what stats you have, 9 times out of 10. If it poops too much, you're still going to get a crappy Digimon. So it's just a game that screws you over unless you're an expert. And I started replaying it when I went to uni. And I was just playing it for banter. Didn't really think much of it. Got to the champion stage with my Digimon. Was like, okay, yeah, 3 hearts left. Okay, he's pooped a fair bit. Okay, he's a bit fat, but you know, he's probably going to die after 25 days anyway. It'll be fine. Restart it. Getting ready for the ultimate depression, and then the game pauses, and I'm like, oh fuck, because here comes the death. And then next thing I know, it's the evolution symbol, and I'm like, fuck, oh my god, I'm finally going to get to ultimate. So I'm there like getting really excited because there's only like 10 ultimate Digimon you can get, and 9 times out of 10 the most common one is this weird alien looking thing. But he ended up evolving into Metal Greymon, and I just started crying into floods of tears because Metal Greymon is like the ultimate be-all end-all one that you want to try and go for because he's like the mascot of the game.
Yeah.
So after that I saved it. I didn't touch it again because I didn't want to kill him off. I felt really bad.
Oh so my god!
He's still alive on a memory card. So yeah, it's because I knew it probably would never happen again. So yeah, that was a moment where I was like, oh my god.
That's hilarious. I love that.
I'm gonna wait for Petal to say theirs, but I just thought of another one.
Well,
this is probably hard for you because you play a lot of games that have got a lot of fantastic moments.
I can pull out 2 moments I remember vividly that really stood out in my, well, I wouldn't say gaming career, but throughout the years. And they're both actually quite old, now that I think about it. The first one would have to be, oh, jeez, how long? About 10 or 9 years ago? Finally finished my ever first DS game, which was Explorers of Sky, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Oh, what a game.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that when I finished the story there, we got through the main story, I'm actually in a minute, I cried.
Oh, yeah,
like a
so did
baby. Because it was such an emotional, beautiful story, and the ending just hit me right in the feels. To this day, if I hear Don't Ever Forget, I still get tears of nostalgia. And Beast knows this and exploits it sometimes.
I'll
That's
just, put,
because
I'll,
he's a
I'll,
bad
just, I'll
human
just
being.
put it on repeat on my playlist in my stream, just over and over again.
The second one
Exposure
is
therapy.
the second one is a bit more recent, still quite old considering the year. It must have been, I think, early 2015. Destiny 1. The moment where me and my friends finally beat Crota's End on Master difficulty.
Yeah. See, as a Destiny 1
Oh,
player, I
we spent
understand that.
3 weeks attempting and perfecting our strategy in that, and when we finally got it, oh my
You know, the worst thing
god,
now is if we sat
the
back and
rush.
looked at Crota now, we'd be like, well, that was just like a really tough dungeon as opposed.
Yes,
Yeah.
compared, but remember at the time, it was impossible to get to, to be at the same level unless you completed and got the gear.
Yes.
So every time you tried it for the first time and all that, before you completed the first time, you would be underleveled, and thus it would be challenging as all hell.
Oh yeah. But that's the thing. That's a okay. This okay. I'll come back. I'll come back to that conversation in a second. I'll let Luke say his other one. But that just sparked something in my mind.
My other one that I thought of was the second time I 100%ed a game. The
Oh.
first time was Sonic Heroes, but I loved that game like through and through, and like
As soon as you said that, I'm like Sonic Heroes.
Yeah, everyone knows the song. But the
I
second
don't.
game I 100%ed because it was a lot more of an effort to complete, and that was a game that many people don't like. But on PS2, Crash Bandicoot: Wrath of Cortex.
Good game. I like that game.
I over 100%. I think it's 107 or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's something like that.
But for secret stages, completed all those. I did not get the platinum relics because fuck that. I don't have that much patience. But second game ever completed. Very fun.
What I was gonna say was the thing that just because Petal was saying about difficulty in that in Destiny 1, right, versus now. Do you think, honest to God, right? There's a conversation that comes up a lot in general about gaming. Do you think games are too easy these days? Or is it because as experienced gamers, and I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but as experienced gamers, we've played so many games that we're a bit more well adapted to play games that have a challenge versus someone going into something that they've never played before, like we did when we were kids?
So
That's a pretty deep question. Like,
my opinion on this is the same opinion I have over the Pokemon series. The first couple of games are not as hard as people say they are. You're just more used to the mechanics. And that's with gaming in general. There are some hard games from the past, don't get me wrong, but the games haven't gotten easier. You just got more used to how gaming works.
Well, that's the only one. The only one I say that's probably, and that's literally because the mechanics of the game are very broken, is the very first. God, what am I thinking? The very first. No. I'm talking Red and Blue. Mainly because the mechanics weren't solid. Because it's so weird. You play Red and Blue, and then you play Gold and Silver. That there is such a massive jump in perfecting the style, the gameplay, the mechanics, the battle, like everything about it was such a step up from those two. I just think
Go on.
I was just gonna say I think the thing is because it was such a new, I won't say new genre, but it was such a new thing that they hadn't worked out where the problems were until people started playing it, if that makes sense.
Well, that's the thing with gaming as it is at the moment. Games feel easier because they're smoother. The issue with games in the past were the fact that because they were more clunky and the gaming in that point was not, but it's still not perfected now, but it's a lot more perfected compared to like 80s, 90s, even earlier. And because they're a lot more streamlined, they feel easier because they're smoother. It doesn't necessarily mean they're easier. It's just easier to play and grasp quickly. Whereas at the older games, you had to get used to mechanics and controls. Even simple games like I'm talking, I think I got the name right, like Galactica, that kind of game. Simple concept, but because you're constantly mashing buttons to move from side to side and shooting, it seems a lot more stressful. Whereas now you can play a remake of that game on a controller with simple stick movement and one button.
honest to God, any game that involves button mashing, I'm screwed. I can't do it. My thumbs are just old and feeble. They just don't. I can't click fast
That's why you keep me
enough.
around.
I was literally when I was trying to do trying to get a Charizard level curry, I literally gave the controller the pedal to give it a go, and even then we still didn't get it. But it was literally a button mashing situation. I'm like, I can't do this. My hands don't let me do that. But what do you think, Riley? Like, do you think gaming is any different in regards to difficulty? Because it's a topic that comes up all the time. Like, it's all the time.
I mean, I still haven't finished the original Crisis Core to this day because
Yeah, but that game's hard.
I still haven't finished Brilliant Diamond yet. You haven't finished Legends Arceus.
Right, okay. I have my gripes with Legend of Arceus, that's for later. But yeah. Unless
Okay.
you want to rant now, which I happily will, but
I can understand as someone who is currently playing BDSP. There's a number of problems with the game in general. I find that the pacing is a little bit weird, and that's part of my problem with it. The other thing is that it just scales up in difficulty for some reason, really randomly in spots. It's not very fluid with that. I don't know if that's just BDSP or that's just Gen 4, and this is not a Gen 4 bashing thing, I promise. It's more just me trying to understand.
I was about to say, the pacing thing, I will defend Gen 4 to the moon and back, everyone knows that. But Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum the original ones had the same pacing issue.
Okay.
It would go quick at certain points and then just drag for the rest of it.
Because there is a lot of backwards and forwards in that game.
Yes, which is fine if the pacing was perfect.
But it's not. It's like
are out of the beaten path as well. So getting the agents you need, defog, surf, all that. You don't.
BDSP streamlined that a lot more.
What is it about?
Where the difficulty dropped.
Other than the fact that you're busy, Riley, and I know that obviously factors into this. But other than that, what is it about BDSP that's kind of not clicking for you, or is it just because you're busy?
Well, when it first came out, I was trying to get through it as quickly as I could because I wanted to finish it before Luke, I'll be honest.
The competitive side come out.
But it is a Gen 4 game, so I was playing that.
Oh, yeah.
I would literally sit on the sofa for hours and be like, oh, yeah, okay, let's go. Mainly because I took my pit club and I always beef up my starter until level 15 before I even hit the first gym. I do it every single time.
That's patience.
I can't do that.
But I don't know,
how far in did you get?
Well, I haven't done Dialga yet because I'm shiny hunting Dialga, so that's as far as I am. But I stopped just before you go towards the legendary. I did the ice gym and then I stopped.
So there's 7 gyms in.
Okay. Yeah, it does get a little grindy at that point. It does get a little bit
But I don't know. I like it. I like the remakes. Don't get me wrong. But having gone from Sword and Shield to then BDSP and gone full body to chibis, I like the chibis. I think it's cute, and I'm glad that it's not 100% chibi. But at the same time,
it's chibi because it kind of follows this overworld art style that the original Gen 4 games had.
It's so strange though. I think I get what Riley's getting at as well, because I found that recently, and I think I've said this to Petal recently, is that it's been or it might have been Danny, one of the two. It was going back to playing BDSP after playing Arceus and playing Sword and Shield so much is a weird feeling, because whilst it's a modern game, it still kind of feels like the older games, if that makes sense.
Part of me, sorry Nintendo, you're about to lose a load of money here. I would have just preferred HD scale up of the pixel-based games, and to have that nostalgia on the big screen rather than on a teeny tiny one.
See, I wouldn't, because it wouldn't feel that. I know you don't want it to feel exactly the same, but it's not going to feel as enjoyable, because with the technology we have at the moment, there's nothing wrong going back to the pixel style. I would love that, but how it would feel to play would feel very clunky.
Yeah, but then you're about to have an upscaled version of Colosseum.
Huh?
Oh,
What-
the stadium.
You're about to have an upscaled version of Stadium.
Well, I don't. Well, so
But
the
it's
thing
the
is with
same
Stadium,
game.
I don't know what they're going to do with it. I know they're working to make it work on the Switch, but I wonder how much it's going to be upscaled. You know, otherwise it's really not revisiting Stadium. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird blend of old and new. But I know what you say. I think the other thing that a lot of the remakes suffer from is that people expect remakes, and the bar was set so high for a Gen 4 remake because
Yes,
you know,
especially after the success that Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire was.
yeah, and even before that, like I still think to this day that the pinnacle of remakes is Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I think that they nailed the concept of honoring a previous game whilst expanding upon it and improving the art style without being too different. But the other problem is that even something as simple as Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, I know they were kind of meant to be new games, but they literally are like remakes of the original games, if that makes sense.
I like the fact that two people can play at once, though.
Yeah, Let's Go did that well.
But that's what I mean. The way they did Let's Go, they kind of either had to go all in with Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and go for the Let's Go format, or they kind of had to go the other direction, like Riley said, and make it more of a like upscaled version of the original games kind of thing.
And they kind of like tried like riding the line in the middle, and I don't think it landed perfectly.
Like I like the games. Don't get me wrong, and I
I
think the hate they get is just unfounded. But like,
I think people that hated on it straight away jumped on bandwagons.
Probably.
But it's not a perfect game, but it's up there like in my, I'd say, like, realistically like top 6.
Well, here's the other thing. Is that it was developed by someone. It was it was overseen by Game Freak and that, but it was developed by somebody who's not Game Freak too.
Yes.
Which is not often that happens.
Considering that was the case, I think they did pretty well. With like,
it still feels like a Pokemon game. Like I don't feel like they've done anything that's kind of made it not feel like a Pokemon game, but it does have
kept the heart of the
moments.
battle scenes with the character sprites and the Pokemon animations and sprites. Like the music was fucking incredible, and the core gameplay mechanics were all the same, with a few extra snazzy touches, like with the underground, which that's a separate topic entirely. But like they kept it all pretty much almost exactly the same, which worked because there was not really much to change about the original how the mechanics of Gen 4 worked. The mechanics were next to perfect. It's just the other parts of the game.
It's interesting that like I finished the games, and it's part of the thing that helped with that was that I streamed them and people were enjoying watching me play it, so that was awesome because that generally helps me get through games like that. But like, it's interesting that Riley hasn't finished it, and it's interesting that Petal hasn't finished it.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And you know what? Then they're not the only people I've heard say that, and that's really like bizarre to hear that people haven't finished that. But I think the other part of the problem was that BDSP didn't get enough time to shine before Legends Arceus came out. That was a mistake. And
another mistake they did is they really delayed the release of GTS. I know the reason why, because there were glitches out that could, if GTS was available, could really exploit the game in really bad ways. Because the glitches that were available at the time, they had like a duplication glitch available.
Yeah.
There was a way to access Shaman way before it was released. If you could combine those two, it was awful. Like there was a menu glitch that you could use to duplicate everything.
Yes.
And it was just, if GTS was available, I know they want to clear everything up first before that. I don't mind that. I just think it's unfortunate that it happened in such a way that GTS was delayed so long that by the time it was out, no one cared.
The other problem that they had there was that because BDSP was built on a different engine to the standard Pokemon formula, it was hard for that then to connect to Pokemon Home. They had trouble with it. And then because they wanted to bring out the GTS and Pokemon Home's connectivity at the same time, one and the other didn't quite mesh together, which was a problem.
And people, like I said, people just stopped caring by the time Home connectivity came out. Because did Home connectivity come out just before Arceus release or after?
I think it came out at the same time as Arceus released, I believe.
Came around the same time, didn't it? Like roughly the same time.
Why didn't you finish the game though, Petal?
Mostly, I put it on the back burner because I got frustrated with it.
What part did you get frustrated at?
The fact that I constantly had to look up online where to find the HMs and such for the field moves, because they were so far off the beaten path. I would never have found them on my own.
Yeah, because usually though,
strength, surf, all that, I could not find them. I spent hours just trying to find defogs so I could progress after, I think.
Yeah.
Because usually those things are
This
like
area was, but yeah, I had to resort to look it up
streamlined.
online and like find it. It's like, well, why the hell is it there? Why would I
Yeah.
put it there, not actually put it in the path when you need it to progress?
Yeah, I was gonna say usually they're like streamlined in the fact that like like in Crystal version you get cut in the forest that you need cut.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean that's been my experience in every other Pokemon game, that they're actually laid out for you to get when you need them in the story. In there, they were just scattered all over the place, and I could not find them.
But then that kind of links back to an early conversation of, does that take away, quote, difficulty?
Yeah, there's a difference between difficulty and just making things complicated for the sake of making things complicated, which I think is something that I think that's something that BDSP suffers from.
Yes.
As someone who's trying to currently do their decks to get the shiny charm, it's just the most convoluted. I've never ever felt so just frustrated by a dex, because it's just like either locked behind time or locked behind exclusivity, which is not out of the ordinary, but then there's some that are locked behind time and exclusivity, and then there's it's mind-blowing that that's like that convoluted. And even like Petal said with the story, that it's to progress the story you need to be able to get these HMs and things, but they're not part of the story to obtain them as such. They're just in random spots, which is not good story or game design. It's just,
One of my other big gripes with was actually how much back and forth there was. Then that's why I was like, I was near the end of the game. I was like, I have to walk back and forth constantly. Fly has been somewhere, right? Looked it up. Veilstone, like I could have gotten Fly in Veilstone, spared myself hours of walking, but I didn't know because it was hidden away in a warehouse.
That is an issue that the original Gen 4 games had, and I wish that was not completely changed, but more improved. But some people, cause I've seen it, some people said that it keeping to what Gen 4, how Gen 4 played was a good thing, and other people have not been so happy. I'm not too sure where I am on that part of the thing, because I know that the original Gen 4 games had those issues as well, and for them to not be like changed slightly to make it a little bit easier for people that are playing, because a lot of people use that game to play Gen 4 games for the first time.
correct.
Yeah,
That's me. That's me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of people's introduction to the Sinnoh region. If it was streamlined a bit more, not necessarily hand-holdy, but to make it a little bit more easy to say, okay, this is where you need to go next. Or it's something simple as, maybe you should check out here next. Or just a character saying, oh, I'm going to go here now, just like a hint. But...
And Nintendo, I mean, I know Pokemon's an interesting one because it's Game Freak that more operate that, but Nintendo are capable of doing that, because I remember in Ocarina of Time, to talk about Zelda, the Water Temple. The Water Temple used to stumble people every single time. And then in the 3DS remake of that game, they added something to the design. The temple had not changed, but there was color coding to help people navigate that temple better so that it wasn't a frustrating experience. And that just shows... Yeah, like there's I can't remember exactly, but there's color coding in regards to different areas being, red or blue or whatever, and it makes it easier to know where you are in the building. Whereas before, all the rooms and all the designs and all the textures look pretty much the same. And because that one temple or that one boss area requires you to adjust water levels, and you're going up and you're going down, whatever else, and need to get the right levels, it's horrible, right? And some people are like, oh, it's not that bad, but it's like everyone's brains work differently with puzzles, so
I loved Ocarina of Time, but that was awful.
It was to me it was frustrating. And so I understand what you're saying, in that it would have been good if they just relocated certain HMs within that same area, but in a way that you sort of had to go past them to progress your story. You know what I mean? Like, they are off the beaten track. They're kind of just hidden away. I know they're hidden machines. I get that. Let's not take it to the extreme that they're not able to be found. Like, so, but yeah.
On a similar topic, then, are there any? Do you think older games that you think just nailed it, like in design, like how the game plays, how it guides you through the game, anything like that?
How old?
Just within
Pong.
over 10 years ago.
Pong was fucking amazing.
I mean, real talk, it was though. Very simple. Everyone could play it.
Oh god. For me, honestly,
I've got one straight away.
I honestly think things like, and you know, I'm a bit of a Nintendo fanboy, not gonna lie. I think things like Mario 64, for example, were quite approachable, had their difficult sides to them, but to be able to just play the story, and then if you wanted to collect all the stars and that, there was a bit of work, but like, to play the story, it was very self-explanatory, and it was very well designed and gave variety, and you know, you couldn't get lost as such. You know, there's a difference between being able to navigate something and something just being designed poorly. So those kind of games, you know, work well for me. Some of the Pokemon games are well designed, and some of them are not. You know, I think I'm very much a Gen 1, 2 kind of person. I think that Gen 2 was quite well designed in the way that each progression to each gym was fairly self-explanatory where you needed to go, and it kind of led you through. I think Sword and Shield was we had introducing waypoints and progression things and quest things, which is obviously going to be something that's going to come into Scarlet and Violet, was a good thing to do, because that is such a big map and especially when you start adding Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor into the mix. But yeah, I think early games, I would say something like Mario 64 is not a bad example of good design.
Crash Bandicoot 2 comes to mind. And you know what? I just thought of something else. The first couple of Halo games.
That was going to be my point. Yeah.
Because the first couple of Halo games, first couple of missions, straight away, just like, right, you're going this way. Here's how you pick up weapons, but you do that in the stream of things. Here's the enemies and what they do and how you shoot them. Cool. The next few levels, it's that times 10. Good luck. But it introduces you to everything before shit hits the fan. It's up to you, down to skill level, to beat that. And I like how it like introduces you really, really well, and then just sees what kind of level you're at.
Yeah, it basically integrates the tutorial into the actual flow of combat, essentially.
Yes.
Which is
Because
what Bungie...
Apart from the aiming, but every shooter does that anyway.
Bungie did that in both Destiny 1 and 2.
Yes.
But they've lost the plot more recently.
Yeah.
Well, with New Light, yeah, it's
the New Light experience, like someone coming into Destiny now and doing the like first mission where you wake up as a Guardian and that. I did that recently because I played as my Titan class for the first time, and I didn't realize I hadn't even actually played as my Titan. So it was very jarring to have like the original opening for Destiny 1, which they put in there so people can see it and everything, even if they haven't played Destiny 1. And then they're like, this is how you use your super. But because of the reworking of how they do like classes and that, you haven't unlocked them. So it's like, here's how you use your super. Use your super. And I'm like,
no,
it won't work.
I looked into it, and actually found out that tutorial only showed up because you technically had access to your super, because at that point you should not have in the tutorial.
Oh.
But because you had already gone and grabbed the supers, grenades, aspects, and all that from my core beforehand, you were not supposed to have that yet.
But it shouldn't.
Never the game trying to tell you how to use it, because it really you have now obtained them.
It shouldn't let you though. That's the point.
But no, that's the thing. Normally you wouldn't, but you had characters that already could go to the tower, therefore you could.
You know, I just thought about what game series, and it is a whole series, is both amazing and terrible at teaching you how to play the game. And I just thought of this and thought Riley would be able to attest to this.
Oh.
Is it Kingdom Hearts?
Series. Yes, because right, you know how some games will teach you something and then like gently let you go and be like, okay, do this for yourself. Kingdom Hearts will tell you a few things. The first game was not that great at it, but the Kingdom Hearts would like give you a very peaceful area at the beginning, so you can get used to the movement, and then you got the jumping and the attacking, and even the first game's pretty good at it. And then instead of gently pushing you and letting go, it drops you off a cliff. Because my god.
Is that true, Riley? Is it literally like, okay, walking through a nice field and then you just get pushed off a cliff?
In what sense?
As in, like, the explanation of how the basic, like, I guess from a tutorial standpoint. Like, I hate games that
weren't that bad, but the earlier games.
The first one was horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, you'll just be dropped off in a world, and then you've got to try and navigate it. And there's one world in particular where you could literally just be going around in circles for hours unless you just happen to turn the correct way first time around.
Yeah.
The rest of the games got a lot better. You got prompted, and when you press the pause menu, it would come up and tell you what you needed to do.
Yes.
And then in KH3, the characters would literally talk to you and be like, "Oh, we should probably go over here. Oh, we need to find this person."
This is probably a good place to find some ingredients.
The first game, no.
First game's awful.
My favourite...
Not awful.
No, not awful, but like in terms of like just letting you go and saying, "Well, you fucking figure it out." It's
Oh, well, that's Zelda.
Well, yeah.
Zelda 1 was like, your little sprite dude just drops in the one spot and you get told nothing. Like,
I mean, I'm
nothing.
pretty sure Pong doesn't have tutorial either, so you know.
Oh, I struggled with Pong. I was like, what do these paddles do? I don't understand. No, but like literally, Zelda 1 was the pinnacle of... And see, there was no internet back then, so you're relying upon talking to your friends who had done some exploration and passing on notes and all that kind of thing. It's like, ooh, it's such a weird thought because we have such easy access now to walkthroughs that back then it was like exploration was the only way to find any of this out. So I guess that's, but yeah, no, yeah.
That noise just something else in Zelda in general.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but see, Skyward Sword was the same. Like Riley was saying in, what was it, in Kingdom Hearts 3 or whatever, where they literally, like, Fee pops up. I will say this much. They improved it in the HD version. Because in the original Wii version, Fee, the sword guardian, blue lady person, popped out of the sword like every 5 minutes. Hey, I think you should walk in this direction. Exactly in this direction. You see over there, you point, you go... Okay, I understand that at the start of the game, but when you're about to face Demise at the end and it's still going, I think you should go see Demise now. I'm like, Fee, fuck off. like literally, it got to that point.
Well, now I'm not going to do it.
Like, it's literally... It's so hand-holdy that it just kind of... Yeah, it kind of just...
Some games can like get away with not teaching you anything though. Like the original Legend of Zelda, it could kind of get away with it. Another series that kind of really gets away with it because it's the start of the game is Dark Souls.
Yeah, but Dark Souls is okay.
Is supposed to
Dark
be
Souls is
challenging as all hell.
Dark Souls went from being a game that came out and everyone's like, "Wow, this is hard," to its own genre. Like it's literally its own genre.
Soulspawn games, this is its own genre now.
Yeah, and it's difficult for the sake of being difficult. It's like, it's designed to be frustrating and be difficult, like.
But also satisfying to beat.
Exactly.
Because everything's down to you. Everything is down to how you play.
Exactly. There's a big difference between something being challenging and something being frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's challenging and you complete it, you're thinking, yes, I feel accomplished. When it's frustrating, you complete it, like, finally, now I can get over with this.
Challenging is something you can get over. Frustrating is you thinking it's the game's fault, not me.
All right.
And that's a line that games just struggle with.
Before we go on to a question I've got to ask you, Luke, you were going to touch on something that I think is going to be a little sensitive for a couple of us here. I don't know about Riley, because Riley hasn't really hasn't played, I don't think, or very little. You have issues with Legends Arceus.
Yes. Right. Let me just preface by saying it's a good game. It's one of the better Pokemon games been released in a while. The gameplay is fucking incredible. I love.
Is it before let's just get this out of the way before anyone brings it up in the comments or anything else? Is it the trees?
No.
Do you have an issue with the trees? Because trust me, when this game came out, it wasn't about anything else than oh my god, there is no trees, or there's very
Right,
little
okay.
trees,
Let
and
me
the
just
trees that are here
clarify.
look like shit.
Let me clarify for everyone. I'm looking right at the camera for this. For
Oh, dear.
everyone that complains about how the trees look, you need to question what you care about in life, because that is not. It's not important.
Riley,
What?
from a graphics design standpoint, how do you feel about the greenery, the environment of the trees in
I mean,
Legend?
it's meant to be Japanese paintbrush, ink brush textures, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's what it comes across as,
Yeah.
yes.
So I don't really have an issue if we were talking like if that was the quality of Sword and Shield when that isn't the aesthetic they're going for, I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
But no,
Right. So my issue
Okay.
with Legend Arceus is that in late game the dex is not fun to complete. I don't mean it's a little bit difficult because
It's
it
a
gets a little
grind.
bit.
It is a grind.
But that's not even that for me, because a grind is okay if it's fun. Because then at the end you think, oh yeah, I've done it. The dex just is not fun to complete, because it's not so much getting the Pokemon, but then like completing the Pokedex pages, and then like, which is something you don't necessarily have to do. But then you see it and think, well, fuck, I've got to do this now because I see ticks in some places and not in others. But then the Dex pages, I don't want to have to use a strong style or agile move 50 times in a row, like just to get it done. And even then, with some of the evolutions, that's not fun. It's almost, not quite, almost as bad as Happens evolutions. But like Dex completion in Legends Arceus is not fun. Whoever thought the Spiritomb Wisp thing was a good idea needs firing, because that's just not fun.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem though that happens in a lot of Nintendo games. I will say that, because let's not all forget that Breath of the Wild had 800 and something fucking Korok seeds that no one ever felt like looking for, because it's just the way they
But
design.
the difference is you don't need to. For the Dex completion in Arceus, you need to find all 107 Wisps.
Yes, you do, to
And
be able
that's
to
what
get
makes it
Spiritomb.
not fun, because it's an
Yeah,
extra
I
thing that
suppose.
feels like an added thing. But lol, if you want to get the big bad boss at the end, spoilers, if you want to get the big bad boss at the end, you need to find all wisps. And good luck. Oh, by the way, you can only really see them at nighttime properly. Oh, by the way, on the map that you can
Well,
look at
no,
online,
here's the
it's
thing
not
as
really
well.
that.
Some are not actually visible unless it's nighttime. They
Well,
don't
there we
appear
go.
during the day. It's
Yeah.
it's very inconsistent. Yeah.
So it's just no. I'm not going to
It's
bother
not-
completing that game. I'm not going
It's
to bother
just-
completing that game for that reason. I don't find it interesting anymore, which is sad because I love the game. But it just ruined the game for me.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I guess here's the thing. I guess though is that it's a hard one to say. Like, because I enjoyed the game and I did find the dex bit grindy. Unless you do a lot of exploration without even thinking about it, and then that's not so bad. But there are some entries that were beyond ridiculous.
Cherrim.
Oh my god! Trying to find a fucking Cherim or a cherubi in a fucking tree.
Yes, that can get absolutely fucked. I hated that.
Even now, if I see a cherubi outbreak, I'm going for it because that's a rare thing. Let's
Yeah.
go. Like, but
Cherrim, Cherubi, Spiritomb. I'm trying to think of a couple of others. For some reason, I struggled with finding a pleat block to evolve Ursaring. I don't know why, but that took me forever.
Well, that one's annoying too because you need a peat block and it needs to be there needs to be a full moon.
Oh, and by the way, you can
Yeah.
only get certain Pokemon that you need for the Dex, by the way, in distortion orb things. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, they're not really guaranteed you can get one in all of them. Which, by the
No.
way, is random. Which, by the way, it takes fucking ever one to spawn in the first place. But good luck completing the Dex.
Yeah.
No, it's Legends Arceus was so close to being the perfect Pokemon game.
But-
So close.
In saying that, I always try to, especially with something like this, it's very much what I would deem an experimental title. It was
Yes,
a
because-
massive shift in direction in regards to some core mechanics of Pokemon in general.
I'm convinced the wild areas in Sword and Shield were testing for Legends Arceus.
Yeah, but I'm convinced that these two games were tests for moving into something more open world like Scarlet Violet. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm convinced, because there are very open world moments in Scarlet Violet by lots of things, and it looks like they're done fairly well. I'm not going to hold like too much high hopes yet until I actually play the game. But it looks like they've learned where they've gone wrong.
Yeah.
Because they've gone wrong in places.
Yeah.
You can have exploration and open world, but too much can also bore a game down.
Yeah, but Nintendo's known for. Here's the thing: Nintendo in general is known for being a bit weird with developing like concepts over time. Because you look at, and I stand by this, and I've said this many times over the years, is that the Wii U was a developmental prototype type situation for the Switch.
The Wii U was a failure.
Oh, it was a failure, and it's really sad because, honest to God, some of the best Nintendo games ever made came out on that console.
The Splatoon series started on Wii U, and look where it is now. Splatoon 3 in Japan has reached the most sold game.
Why do you think there's a lot of Wii U games now being re-released on the Switch because they didn't get a chance to shine on the Wii U? Because there were some incredible games on that console, but
yes,
yeah.
Important thing to remember as well is that every failure is just a stepping stone on the path to success.
Oh yeah, of course. That's with like game consoles and even game developers.
That's with everything in life.
Yeah.
Now, what I was going to ask is, we all obviously have our favorite franchises, and most of our franchises have multiple entries. I'm curious, in some of your favorite franchises, what the worst entries are in your mindset. Like, what are the what are the ones that you go, I wish this wasn't part of the series?
I'm going to need time to think about this. I'm not going to talk about Pokemon because I've spoken at length about how much I don't like X and Y. So I'm going to think of something different. By the way, X and Y shit games. I had to get one in every single podcast I'm in. But come to me last because I need to have to think about this.
Riley.
Ooh.
I can go first if you guys not sure yet.
Let Petal go first.
Okay, go on, Petal.
This is, well, a bit of a...
Okay, what series are we talking about first?
Halo.
Okay.
Ooh.
Because that's the whole
saying.
reason I got into Destiny was because it was made by Bungie, and I love Bungie through Halo, so...
Yeah.
I think I know what game you're going to say, but yeah.
Halo 5 Guardians.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was not good.
I mean, in of itself, the game is good, I'll give it that. But as for what it was marketed as for how the story plays out according to what came before, it's dog shit. It's pure and utter dog shit.
So I'm guessing, so from a lore perspective, and I know someone...
both yes and no, lore perspective, marketing perspective, because the game was not at all what it was marketed as, the story and all that. The whole Hunt the Truth campaign and all that was like, there's nothing in the game. That this is solved in the first, 2 or 3 missions? And the, other 4/5 of the game is about something completely different? It's just, and...
I know this pain. I've played Halo 5. I know the pain.
Yeah, and also, I do have a lot of criticism with the story and lore, and a lot of it stems back to that the writer for the Halo 5 story was a very negatively criticized comic writer who had never played a Halo game or read any of the lore before.
Yeah, that's problematic.
So there were a lot of things in there that were seemingly retcons out of the blue.
Right, I've got an idea in mind.
And things that just didn't make sense. And yeah, I mean, I'll give 3 for 3 credit where credit's due. In Infinite, they fixed a whole lot of these issues in a way I hoped they would. That they weren't retcons. It was just, spoiler words, Cortana. The Cortana copy was just raving lunatic and was misremembering things. It wasn't retcons. It was just madman.
Yeah.
Remembering the history the way she wanted to remember it. But yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, that's fair. That's honestly fair.
The gameplay and all that I absolutely loved, and like if it was just a standalone game, it's amazing. But in the connecting story, awful.
Yeah.
Okay, rant over.
Rant over.
Right. Is it me next?
I mean, unless Riley's got an answer.
No.
So, one thing that surprisingly that a lot of people don't actually know about me for some reason, because I've spoken about the series a lot of times. I am a huge lover of the Doom series.
I
I feel like Petal knows where I'm going. But Petal, tell me if you think of a different game. But the Doom series is incredible. A lot of people call it a grandfather FPS game. But I don't love it for that reason. I love it because I remember it scaring the shit out of me in Doom 1 on DOS. And holy crap, I love that game, but I could not complete it when I was younger because I kept getting terrified. Doom 1 is incredible. I still play that now. Doom 2 is incredible. Still play it now. I haven't got a chance to play Doom Eternal yet still, but Doom 2016 was incredible. Doom 3.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Doom 3, and I know it was the series' first foray into like proper 3D Doom. And in the grand scheme of things, it did things fairly well. What it didn't do well, I have an issue with pacing, it seems. Like, the pacing of the story is awful. The story itself, while not terrible, it's bad. And the gunplay, the gun firing just seems really, really off. It seems like your weapons, in a series where it's over the top for the sake of being over the top, your weapons do nothing. And I get that it's trying to push the whole these demons that come in from hell after a science experiment gone wrong with the portal, and they're coming into the Mars base. Sure, go for that story, but yeah, the demons are terrifying, and they're meant to be these all strong beings. But the Doom Slayer, the Doom guy, is meant to be this person that rips shit and just like shows the
Rip and
demons.
scare.
You should not have come into my garden. Like, that's not happening, and I'm going to show you why. And it's meant to be like over the top. Doom 3 tries more into the
Horror.
Alien Isolation survival horror aspect.
Yeah, it tries to be a horror game.
And horror it's not an over the top horror like the original games were, like just shoot and blast it. It tries to go like the more survival horror, like Alien Isolation, almost Resident Evil, but not quite because it's still got the arcadiness to it. But Doom 3 just that's not what the series is about, and they tried so hard and just lost what Doom is in a Doom game because of that. Well, I
Yeah.
feel like they nailed it in Doom 2016 because
Oh,
that is so chaotic, and you're constantly punching demons, ripping heads off, and getting ammo out of it for some reason, and it's stupid fun. But Doom 3, no, I can delete that from my memory and I'll be happy. That didn't need to exist.
Another game, not I've played it, but I can think of one. And I can't remember where I seen people talking about it, and that was the Dead Space series went from being scary in the first one to being terrible.
Just an FPS.
Yeah, like it lost its, and that's the
Just
problem.
But just turned to first person shooter, like action game.
Yeah, because apparently the first.
Go on.
I was going to say apparently the first one's absolutely terrifying, and then it just turns into an action.
The first one is amazing in all and horrifying in all the good ways.
I have not played Dead Space 1, but I've played 2 and 3, and I just don't like them. I don't care about Dead Space.
2 was iffy. 3 just ditched the horror altogether, but just full on action first-person shooter.
It's like it tried to be Mass Effect on 3, and it just didn't.
Yeah, I can see that comparison.
Highly.
Okay, I don't really have any strong opinions, mainly because like I understand why every game has its place. Every little bit of lore helps. Blah 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 blah.
Apart from Doom 3.
What?
Never mind.
What?
I said apart from Doom 3, but it's fine.
All right, let loose. Spill the tea. Come on.
Because most of the games I play, you've got to play all of them to understand the whole story.
Kingdom Hearts.
Even though Chain of Memories is but
Chain of Memories is bullshit, but it was fine.
Okay, right. Remind me of the wording of the question again. I want to make sure because I'm split between two, but I want to make sure I pick the right one.
In a series that you're a fan of, what in your opinion is the worst game in that series, and you could actually even just not have it if you felt that strongly about it?
Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Oh wow!
Really?
I hate Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
I did not expect that.
I can see that because it's because of being just not challenging, but just outright frustrating.
As someone who's played them recently, yes, Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is purely, in my opinion, it's down to luck. Because if Mangle comes down even an inch, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you're literally just on a ticking timer. If you don't keep an eye on the puppet, you're fucked. If you don't flash the light at the right point in time, you're fucked. Like, Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I understand people are like, oh my god, it's irrelevant because you're just running from Springtrap. But they added a new element of suspense because you're focusing on one thing, but you're still trying to juggle
Yeah, but even
ventilation,
from a
cameras.
lore perspective, like Springtrap is such an integral part of the entire lore now. Like it's
Nothing
like,
would have happened without Springtrap.
exactly.
AKA Afton spoilers.
With 2, you just get introduced to Freddy Fazbear if he'd had Botox, and like, what's the point?
The funny thing is, I would have said that Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is my least favorite, but after hearing your points, you have a point. Like
It's literally so irritating. It's
I
the
think
one
the
game I
issue-
can't do.
It also
The issue
doesn't.
with two, the issue with 2, you're focusing on too much at once.
Yeah,
There is a lot
it just
going
gets
on.
frustrating instead of challenging.
But there is so much, like, all the games except for that one, and you know, I'm sure there's some Five Nights at Freddy's fans that are probably going to go like, "What, you don't know what you're talking about?" But like, I feel like it's also the game that doesn't bring as much to the story than any other addition to it as well. Like, you know, obviously
Yeah.
one establishes the franchise. 3 introduces the reason things went down, basically, because it introduces Afton as the character behind
Depending
it
on who you ask, but
with Springtrap, you know, like I
Yeah.
mean, the mechanics in that game is kind of like, you know, it does introduce, and it does introduce a different mechanic in regards to, as Riley said, like the suspense side of it. But then, like, then you get to 4, which was like horrific. Like 4 is
incredible.
4 is intense. Like 4
is true horror.
And then, you know, but then you still, even silly things like people go, oh, you know, like Pizza Simulator, goofy as it is, has a whole heap of lore, right? And then, you know, as much as people shit on it,
that's just a whole heap of
I
lore,
mean,
but
and that's
yeah,
mainly because of the
extremely
glitches,
important.
because it's been pretty universally received as good, except for the game glitches. Security Breach was such a different turn for the game, but in a positive, or sorry, for the franchise, but in a positive way. So I kind of get what Riley means by 2 is kind of like, yeah.
Sister Location was also incredible.
Sister Location is very different in a good way.
But one thing I will say about 4, because you touched on it briefly, the reason 4 is so good because it truly like encapsulates the feeling of I'm really by myself here.
Yeah. You're just a little
myself, and I can
kid
get killed at any
in
second.
a nightmare.
Look,
Yeah.
Foxy being in the closet is the most terrifying thing I've seen in my life. Just open it,
Except
like,
for when he's a plushie. Because Foxy plushie
Foxy plushie is adorable, but yeah.
And then like the in
I have a
between
Foxy
round
plushie in real life.
nice. The in between round mini game of stopping Springtrap plushie on the cross.
Yes.
That shit is terrifying.
But even the
trap.
That's what I mean.
The little like cutscenes in between each night in the bedroom where they're showing what leads up to the bite of 87. It gives you
bite of 83.
Well, it's complicated because there's a lot of,
but yeah, that one was the first one, the bite of 83.
There's a lot of like ifs, ands, buts, maybes about that whole situation. But either way, the bite that changed everything.
The bite of Crying Child.
It kind of like, it was that revelation. Like I remember watching, for example, Markiplier play it, and that reaction to like, oh my god, that's
the whole world's been turned upside down.
Like it's like that's the bite, you know. Like but I do see what Riley's saying. 2 is a weird, as I've played them recently, as we all know, and 2 is
Yeah.
Especially Night 5. I never beat Night 5. I couldn't beat it. There was just too much going on.
I got to Night 5.
And I remember Riley being in my chat going, bees.
Just stop. It's not worth it.
Like, I want to beat it. I got close a couple of times, but it is that, you know, one slip and you're absolutely screwed.
Well, it just shows what kind of game it is when it comes to come to a point of it's not worth completing.
It's the case of Toy Story and Toy Story 2. Toy Story did very well. Toy Story 2 came into it, had some good gimmicks, but it you know, you're not going to get the hype of the first one.
Those are games I haven't thought of in a long time.
I mean, they're films, but nice try.
What about games?
There are, I was going to say, there are games as well.
But it's exactly what happened. Everyone was really excited about Five Nights at Freddy's. Then Five Nights at Freddy's 2 came out, but there was just it was so complicated that it made people that like the simplicity of the original, it made it hard to play.
In FNAF 2's defense, though, at time it was developed by just one guy.
Oh yeah, and that's and
Yeah.
that's a credit to Scott Cawthon on that one. Like that's just those games. It's like Phasmo. Phasmo started off with 2 people, and look how big that game got. Like it's insane to think there's some of these games of it's like Stardew Valley when it first started. That was developed by a very small team, or I think it was one person to start with, and it slowly expanded. It's crazy to think that these people have developed these games and that.
Undertale, Toby
Undertale,
Fox.
yeah. But another one that I can think of, and horror games kind of do this, is that as gruesome as it is, Outlast is another good example of a franchise.
Ooh.
Outlast 1 and its DLC Whistleblower, some of the best horror games ever, or horror experiences made ever. Outlast 2 is garbage.
I slightly disagree. Outlast 2 is not as bad as people say it is. Outlast 1, sorry, is way better, but 2 is not as bad as people say.
It's not. No, here's the thing. When I say it's garbage, I don't mean compared to other
It's
games.
still terrifying.
Like in comparison to other games, I'm just talking as if you look at Outlast and you look at Outlast 2. Outlast is superior in every single way. The environment, the fear, because I think the going outside kind of took away what Outlast 1 was. Outlast 1 was very much you're confined. You're stuck in a place where every corner you walk around, there's just something just disturbing or scary or very wrong. In Outlast 2, I think it went too far into the just bizarre side of things. It didn't connect real well, and that's why Outlast Trials is coming out, which is going to be a multiplayer thing, but it's going to be set in this.
Wait, I don't know about this.
Oh, didn't you know about that? There's a 4-player co-op type game called Outlast Trials coming out. They're doing a closed beta in October, and it's set in the same universe, but it honestly, it gives me the vibes of Outlast 1, and I'm like, this is going to be hopefully an incredible experience.
I'm looking at the trailer right now. It looks quite good.
It looks it's scary. It's legit scary. So I'm like, all right, but yeah. They're interesting. What have you got another one? Did you say you had 2, Riley, or you were toying with 2 there?
Yes, the other one, and I say I was toying between 2 because I know the second one I don't really think anyone's gonna have a comment on. Final Fantasy 13 2.
I played 13, and even though I haven't completed it, and Riley did have a go at me, then I just stopped playing. It kind of had a go at me because I stopped playing. But it's sad because I really loved 13. It was really, really fun, but I just couldn't. I couldn't be bothered to complete it. But it was a very fun game. 13-2 I haven't played for that reason.
I know very little about Final Fantasy, but I have heard that before. I have heard that opinion before about 13-2.
It's a waste of space.
Wow.
Like it was literally that it didn't add anything of value.
It's one of those games that's got multiple endings, but one true ending. But the game doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't direct you to the true ending. Like you could play it and you could be perfectly fine up until the very last moment, and then that's it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't explain anything until that ending, and even then, you go to the next game, and then suddenly, Lightning is the savior of all evil. The heck happened? Because in the previous game, she was riding a ghostly horse. It's just there's no explanation for it.
That's an interesting one. Is when there's multiple endings to a game and one's deemed like the true canonical ending. It does make things a little difficult if it's not explained well.
It's the only ending that's got a fully fleshed out CGI quality pre-rendered scene ending, so you know which one it is. But the rest of them are just like, and then they lived their lives and everything was peaceful, or everything burned to a crisp. But let's go back to the beginning. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Why am I tomatoes?
I can name one series that did very well actually with a multiple ending, and sequel and all that.
Oh.
Elder Scrolls, because in Daggerfall, the second game, you had so many different endings. So Bethesda had no idea how they were going to fix that for a third game. They decided every ending was canonical. The god of time himself broke reality, so all the endings happened at once. And then eventually, when the dragon broke.
Beyond Two Souls. 10 out of 10.
Beyond Two Souls.
Oh, I was lost then for a second. I thought you meant it didn't need to exist. I'm like, that's a good game. What do you want about?
It's a really good game, but it's got different ending pathways, but ultimately they lead you to the same point.
Me and Ronnie did start playing Beyond Two Souls together. We haven't finished it yet, but
set the house on fire every time.
Yes. The context matters.
It's look. I played a bit. I played and I watched a shit ton of Detroit Become Human, which is amazing.
Oh yeah.
What?
The old man.
Oh yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
But like, literally, the first thing that happens in that game is when after you have the Well, no, that's leading up to the confrontation on the roof. Where the simple something like picking up that fish that's just flopping on the ground. And I remember again, Danny and I were playing it on stream, and like Caden, who's absolutely obsessed with that series, was watching me like a hawk, like in chat, going, "What are you going to do, Bees? What are you going to do?" I'm like, I'm picking the fish up. Like I want to pick the I just can't leave the fish there. And literally, those decisions impact the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I both love and hate that with those kind of games, because I'm like, what if I'd made the other decision? What if this, like, me saving this fish later on, this fish becomes like some evil boss villain or something? Like, like it's literally that moment of like, ooh, Good Samaritan doesn't always pay off kind of thing.
I had a similar moment when I played Final Fantasy 15 more recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I played that recently this year. Was it a couple of months ago now, Riley?
Yes.
And I finally completed it. I will clarify. End up switching to easy mode so I can enjoy it and complete it. Fight me comments, but near the beginning of the game, I accidentally interacted and disrupted a very big enemy that I should not fight that early in the game, and then run away from it, and it flew away. Little did I know. This is the very beginning of the game, at the end, almost like the second to last ending sequence for the game, I think it is. That enemy comes back if you've interrupted it at the start of the game.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wait, what? Okay.
So if you don't interrupt it, it doesn't become a problem, but if you interrupt it, it comes and gets you.
Yes.
That's
it's like this big terrifying bird thing. And the only reason it was like on it's like you're driving on a road in like a little valley thing, and on top of one of the sides of the valley is this bird, and you can go up there to get like certain materials or whatever it is. And I went up there because I saw it on the map I wanted to. It's like sneaking past part of a mission, and then I was sneaking back and accidentally interrupted it. It was chasing me, drove away, it flew off. Now. This thing tried. Spoilers. This thing tried killing me at the end of the game.
Oh lord!
And that was terrifying because at the time, Ronnie was like, "You shouldn't have done that." I was like, "Why? It's come back?" And he just kept saying, "You shouldn't have done that." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then
you know what you did.
Honestly, yeah. Many weeks later, when I got to near the end of the game, I saw it. I was like, "Oh, it's back."
Oh lord!
And turns out, if you don't interrupt it, it leaves you alone.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have did that.
Final Fantasy is a fun series.
See, for me, Zelda is one of my favorite franchises. I absolutely love Zelda. There's one game.
Try and kill the chicken.
Lord Almighty, those chickens are the most lethal thing in the games.
Fuck, mother clucker.
Good lord. I absolutely just cannot enjoy Wind Waker. I cannot enjoy Wind Waker.
A lot of people like Wind Waker.
There's something about Wind Waker. I've never finished it. I've tried playing it multiple times, and it is one of the few Zelda games I've not played start to finish, and I just don't like it. And
I've never played Wind
people
Waker,
get
but
very
it's quite
upset
good.
with me when I say about Wind Waker, and they're like, "What is it about it?" I said, "I can't quite put my finger on it, but I just there's something that
gets you frustrated,
it.
or
Well, no, I don't. It just doesn't click with me. It doesn't resonate with me
it's
for
just not
some
that
reason.
interesting.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I don't particularly like the art style as such, and I don't like the the art style doesn't reflect the story, if that makes sense, because there's some
I know what
really
you mean.
there's some really dark parts to, like, literally, I can say this because it's an old game, but spoilers for
Spoilers.
There's a part where you get locked up, isn't there?
No, there's a part that the end battle with Ganon or Ganondorf. Link, Toon Link, you know, little child, little happy looking little child
chibi
dude,
Link.
little chibi Link, drives a sword through his head
Yeah.
to kill him at the end. It is one of the most gruesome deaths in Zelda gaming history, but it doesn't have the impact because the art style doesn't click with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a weird, and that's not the only reason. Like, I don't know. Pacing's an issue. The story's not particularly like it doesn't feel end of the world kind of, if that makes sense.
It's interesting that you say that because I know that a lot of people. I've never played Wind Waker and I've never played Skyward Sword,
Yeah.
but you like Skyward Sword instead, and a lot of people don't like that game.
A lot of the reason why people don't like Skyward Sword is the motion controls.
Yeah, how I played on the Wii. Apparently, the Switch remake was great.
No, I'm the opposite. I found that I had more trouble controlling him in that game than I did in the Wii version.
Did you use the motion controls or button controls?
Motion controls. And
That'll probably be why.
I tried with, but that's the thing. I tried with the button controls, and I was like, "This was weird for this game because it's designed to be motion
Well, I suppose
controls."
because you're used to the Wii version.
Yeah, but no. And I love the art style because the art style of Skyward Sword is beautiful.
I would agree to disagree on that. I don't like how Skyward Sword looks.
I see. I love that art style.
I don't like Link's model in Skyward Sword. I think it looks a little bit too weird.
In what way, though?
It just looks a little bit. It looks too unlike the Legend of Zelda series, in my opinion. Because you've got, I mean, granted, you've got Toon Link, which is silly in Wind Waker, but silly in a good way. And then you've got like how Breath of the Wild Link looks, and you've got
Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess.
Yeah, Twilight Princess. I kind of like the look of, but then it's similar to Skyward Sword for me in the sense of I know Ocarina of Time Link, I know Wind Waker Link.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess is okay. Skyward Sword I don't really like the look of, but I don't really know why.
Yeah, I mean, so you swing towards more of the cartoony style, Ocarina of Time style.
But then again, I love the Breath of the Wild model, and that's not.
Yeah, but he's kind of like he's kind of like a blend between like Skyward Sword and like Twilight Princess, kind of. It's more semi-realistic but more brightly colored, if that makes sense. Because literally the theme of Twilight Princess is like everything is just washed out, dark grey, no color to it because of the way the mechanics in the game work. Yeah. Whereas Skyward Sword's the opposite. It's literally a very bright, vibrant, because it's set so early in the timeline that there's not that level of, you know, destruction and whatever else. With Breath of the Wild's the other end of the scale. Everything's just a ruin.
The timeline of that series is a different topic entirely.
Oh, it was better once Nintendo put out an official "here's the Zelda timeline," and then everyone was arguing about it, and they're like, "Well, that's not correct." And it's like, it's their game. Like, they know their own timeline.
I've never known a series that has one timeline that splits into three, that all three come back into one. It's weird. It's weird.
Well, it's not that the timelines come back together, so that after that point, the events are all the same.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's just odd. Like
it's a divergence timelines and then a reconvergence, essentially.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't want to interrupt you guys talking about Shiny Togepi.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Of course you're shiny hunting while we're podcasting.
But yeah, it's just that if you want to watch a funny video on that, I'm going to plug a YouTube channel that's way too popular and doesn't really matter if I plug it or not. Back when the Unraveled series was a thing on the Polygon YouTube channel, Brian David Gilbert done an amazing video on the Zelda Timeline, which is funny because he says that all the Zelda Timeline and everything connects down to Zelda Monopoly, which is
Wait.
Zelda. Yeah.
Video. The thing that puts all the games and all the timelines together is Zelda Monopoly.
Yes.
Okay then.
It's so weird.
Look at Polygon Unraveled Zelda Timeline.
I was gonna say I've seen bits and pieces about that, and some of the theories are fascinating. It's one thing. I mean, people know I love Legend of Zelda, but I know an awful lot about Legend of Zelda, and it's
probably to an unhealthy level, honestly.
I know way too much about Legend of Zelda than I should.
But then again, that's kind of like me with Dust, so
it's something that I wish I could do more content on, but it's also kind of like it's an area I don't want to delve into because it would cause controversy. Right. It just is. It's one of those. The Zelda franchise has some very passionate, like some of these big franchises do, have some very passionate people. And if you go against what they're saying, or if you say something that's kind of like, even if it's been confirmed by Nintendo, no, you don't know what you're talking about. This is actually what happened. Nintendo are just drunk. And it's like literally, it happens. And it's like, I love the Zelda franchise, and I love theorizing about the Zelda franchise and everything else. Like, I'm fascinated by how the next game is going to fit in with it, which got a title recently, and I was very excited.
I know a random bit about the Zelda Timeline thing from the official source. Yeah. I don't know if you know these. I don't know if it's been fixed since, but for a very long time, even Nintendo didn't know the timeline because if you look at, I think it's the English website with the timeline page. Yeah. It shows certain games in certain order. The Japanese version of the website shows 2 games the other way around.
Yeah, I had heard that. Nintendo had when Anuma was creating this franchise, right? And he still oversees it, but he's not as heavy involved now. There was a basic idea of where the game's kind of positioned, but it was never like definitively we have a timeline down on paper. And so when they had to put it down on paper, it was complicated because there's lots of bits of lore that kind of, they don't contradict each other, but they kind of overlap a bit here and there. So it's kind of hard to like, certain games almost run at the same time, but they can't because canonically they don't make sense. So it's like, yeah, it's an interesting one. Some of them are really obvious, like the 3DS ones where it's like Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks and all that. They all run together. So it goes Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, I think is off the top of my head. And they're a cohesive storyline. Same with Ocarina of Time going into Majora's Mask. So yeah, it's a messy one to talk about. Like it's fascinating. Like it's fascinating, but yeah, I know a lot about Zelda lore. Like Petal would know a lot about Destiny lore.
Don't get me started on ramble for hours.
And see, Destiny lore is also very convoluted, you know, and I'm sure the Kingdom Hearts is convoluted. It's kind of known for being a little hard to follow, but then if you put it all together, you get a big picture of how the story goes. And would that be fair to say, Riley?
Yes, but people also need to commit the time to it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes. Well, that's exactly the same. Like I'm the same with Zelda. People like I don't understand the timeline. I'm like, you need to actually go through it because it makes sense if you spend the time on it. And then they're like, why should I? I'm like,
if you actually take the time to do the digging, research, connect dots, then suddenly everything makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, if you don't, then yeah.
People don't like connecting the dots. That's hard work.
Just follow. You go from dot 1 to 2 to 3.
That's the issue.
They want to go from like dot 1 to dot 15, everything in between,
and then back to 4.
And then
what did 2 to 14 get vaulted?
Oh god. So anyway, any final thoughts before I wrap things up? Because we have been going for an hour and 20 minutes.
Pokemon X and Y are shit.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Don't you love having me here?
Riley, any final
Well,
thoughts?
Well, guess what, Luke? Diamond and Pearl are
No.
shit.
No,
Oh.
no, you're not. No, you haven't got any final thoughts.
No.
No. You're just you're happy with your happy little world there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Happy.
Yeah.
Happy joy.
Happy
Petal, any final thoughts?
I already said my piece.
Oh yes. Oh well, good. Well, all right. Well, on that positive note, if you have missed any of this, you can catch it in an audio format too. It will be available on podcast platforms as well as on YouTube. Either way, if you're listening audio or you want to watch the visual, it works both ways. And yeah, these usually come out once a month, around the end of the month generally. And I have a variety of guests. I can actually tell you and confirm for you that next month's one will be the cosplay edition of the podcast that was unlocked during the subathon back in May. And my guests at this stage are going to be Caden, Larissa, and Corey. Larissa's very excited because, cosplay. And so it seemed to tie together as well because, one, it's my birthday, so do something kind of special. And two, it's Halloween. So it all ties together very well. So, yes, but make sure you check this out. Watch all the other podcasts because there's been some interesting conversations. Check out the rest of the content on my channel. Thank you to Luke, Riley, and Petal for being here once again. And make sure that you all play X and Y because Luke can go to hell. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.